Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, students and faculty. Before I get started, I'd like to thank my family. My mother, my biggest support and inspiration. My father, for always putting a smile on my face and reminding me that it only took him 3 years to finish high school. My sister, my best friend, my confidant, the voice of reason in my head when I get too narrow-sighted. My grandparents, for everything, thank you. I'd like to start off by saying what an honor it is to have been selected to represent the graduating class of 2017. For those of you that did not vote for me to speak, you now know how 48.2% of the country feels. Graduation speeches often call for recognition of the unique qualities of an institution, and University High School certainly has plenty. Take J-Term, in which students have explored everything from football, fashion, dinosaurs to drama, storytelling to Star Trek, and much more. This year, students in Dante's Italy even had the opportunity of visiting hell itself, something my peers in AP Chemistry experienced every day. But it is at each and every graduation that we see what is likely university's most unique and perhaps most attested quality. No, I'm not talking about Mr. Webster's loquacious speeches, but rather the absence of caps and gowns. By disallowing stare and academic regalia, each student stands out amongst the crowd, or at least that is the reasoning given. Aside from provoking the ire of seniors, there's a great irony to this, that an institution that prides itself first and foremost on the formation of a tightly knit community, an institution that devotes a whole part of the day to gather as a group, would suddenly decide to insist on individuality. Here we are presented with two contrasting ideals. On one extreme, there's the rugged individual. Anything even the slightest bit conventional is an affront to the individual. It is construed to be an anchor tying him or her down. But without this anchor, the individual is left to sail aimlessly in solitude. With the other extreme, there's the person who is fully invested in the community, a cog in the machine. While the rugged individual will sail without direction, the cog will have no say in his or her destination. The route is set, the outcome is determined. Oddly enough, this too brings about a sense of solitude, only this time from the monotony of life. No one, or at the very most, very few, live their lives in either of these extremes. Rather, we move between the two, sometimes laying anchor, and other times drifting away. It is my belief that the basic distinction between the two is that the individual is a manifestation of difference, and the community is one of similarity. In the early stages of our lives, there's a tremendous focus on the latter, a focus that emanates from the necessity to create what is perhaps the most important community of all. Family. You have your mother's eyes, your father's nose, the mailman's hair. Yet for some, living in this sameness transcends childhood. Surrounding oneself with others who think like you, speak like you, and perhaps even look like you, creates a sense of safety, similar to that of the nurturing family. But this also renders us no different than T.S. Eliot's Hollow Men. Leaning together, headpiece filled with straw, alas, our dried voices, when we whisper together, are quiet and meaningless. We are left with like-minded colleagues, affirming predisposed ideas and beliefs. Whatever dialogue ensues brings no unique perspective, it adds nothing to the topic of worldly discussion. For this we need difference. After all, is it not the mixed palate of savory, sweet, sour, and spicy that gives food its taste? Would music not be a pointless racket if it had only one note? Are the ups and downs of life not that which give it meaning? Difference is what makes life interesting. It is what has made the past 4 years at university so special. This difference can be seen practically every day. Morning meeting presentations run the gamut, from serious to funny to absurd to scooter philosophy. But before we value difference, we must first recognize it. Some differences are quick to see. Mr. Fitzgibbon will never miss an opportunity for a sarcastic quip, Mr. Crawley for a terrible pun. It will not take long for Mr. Bradley to assign you a nickname, nor to find out that you should never mention the reader when analyzing rhetorical strategies in Mr. Runskill's class. Others take a little longer to ascertain, like Miss Bean's uncanny sneakiness and ability, or the fact that what Mr. Morrison lacks in height, he makes up for in heart. As long as you're not talking during this class. But stopping at mere recognition poses a great threat. The darkest chapters of humanity have arisen from this, a superficial distinction that one and two are not alike. What is more is that this distinction comes from a community united against what could be called the stranger. The mass genocide of the Jewish people and its subsequent justification came to be because clearly Jews do not bleed when pricked, laugh when tickled, or die when poisoned. Clearly Jews were a blemish to society. Slavery and its subsequent justification persisted because clearly blacks were inferior. Clearly blacks were not worthy of humane treatment. The denial of women's suffrage and its subsequent justification endured because clearly they were unfit for such responsibility. Clearly women did not deserve an equal voice. Anti-Semitism, racism, and sexism all come from a strong community united against the other. These homogeneous groups define themselves negatively by what they are not. By looking beyond these surface differences, we avoid this danger. We internalize these differences. What do they signify? In short, it is the overarching theme of this year, empathy. Today we are not wearing caps and gowns, and truly it does not matter. Having a perfect community loses the luster of its respective parts. A community does not need to be one of pure similarity. In fact, it shouldn't. Rather, a community has to be heterogeneous. It must have individuals that spend their time contemplating Newtons and quarks, ones that read poetry and prose, ones that can wax poetic over NBA trades and others on Wall Street transactions. It must have individuals that love Star Wars more than life, and others that could not watch Star Wars for their life. Individuals that relish over cars, and others that are fascinated by planes. More important is that we work to understand and value differences, that we understand our own differences and those of others. This ultimately creates a community, one in which we cheer on teammates and thespians alike, as well as stand in solidarity for those who have experienced loss and grief. As well as Stevens put it, out of this same light, out of the central mind, we make a dwelling in the evening air, in which being there together is enough. Yet the omission of standard graduation garb is indicative of something else. As much as graduation is a time to look back, it is also a time to look forward. Sitting on stage as individuals, we are noting that graduation marks the severing of our ties with the community, with University High School. We are leaving behind SAT scores and ACT scores. We are leaving behind APs. We are leaving behind the classes we aced and failed. No longer will someone always be there to clean after us. Thank you, Gretel. No longer will we have someone to ask for extras during lunch. Thank you, Miss Davis. No longer will we have lunch or meetings. Thank you, Mrs. Bradley. After today, we will be on our way to college. New institutions will be our new communities. But within these new communities, we all enter with the ability to recognize and appreciate the differences we will undoubtedly come across. This lesson has come from the community we are leaving today. It has come from University High School. And it will ultimately lead us to a more interesting life, a more meaningful life, and a better understanding of ourselves.